Liverpool top the brand new Champions League phase format. Hey guys, welcome to the channel, welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be centering on the Champions League and the league phase format that has just been and gone. The newly revamped and new format of the Champions League is officially now in the history books as the league phase draw completed last night, and we now enter a more familiar knockout stage of the competition. Liverpool came out smelling of roses in this one, topping the group as well as alongside several other teams that have automatically qualified for the round of 16 phase. There'll be 16 other teams that are going to be battling it out amongst themselves to obviously join those 8 teams in the round of 16 stage. But as for the remaining 12 other teams, should I say, they are heading out of the competition and out of Europe altogether as history was made with the completion of the first ever Champions League phase draw for this newly rebranded and newly formatted stage of the competition. We're going to be looking back over it and talking about it. Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? But before we get into all of that, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you are new. Both things are always incredibly greatly appreciated. Get involved in the comment section as well. I want to know what you guys have to say on this, because I want to know if you guys actually enjoyed the league phase draw or not. Do you think we should go back to the group phase draw? Do you actually like the league phase? Or do you think it can be further improved upon going forward? I'd love to know what you guys have to say on this particular matter. So get involved down below with your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That I'm sure will make for great interesting reading. Otherwise, let's get on with the video. Let's talk to the Champions League and the league phase draw. Obviously, as a Liverpool fan, I'm happy, I'm excited, and I am proud of the team for being the first ever team to obviously top the league phase draw for the first time since its new formatting. Liverpool may have lost last night, and if Barcelona obviously had taken full advantage of that, they would have actually topped the group. But thanks to a draw with Atalanta, Barcelona missed out on the opportunity, despite obviously Liverpool losing their game against PSV in what was a very much rotated side by one Arne Slot. But I've really enjoyed the Champions League phase. Really have enjoyed it. Usually the group phase draw is normally turned off in my mind by match day 5 or 6. And that's normally because most of the groups have already got their group decided. The top 2 teams are normally decided. They're normally decided right off the bat, but once the games actually play out and it goes as you predicted, there's not normally much interest from me beyond match day 5 to match day 6. That's normally a done and dusted kind of group. You know the 2 teams that are going to qualify. You know who's going to be dropping into the Europa League. You know who's going to be exiting out of Europe entirely. That's normally what happens in the group phase draw. But in the league phase, you didn't quite know what was going to happen. And even though Liverpool, like I say, were perfect for the opening 7 games of the 8, it was comfortable and smooth sailing for the Reds for the most part. But there was still a little bit of jeopardy there that obviously Liverpool could lose their top spot. And I think what made this competition even more exciting and interesting was the fact that obviously there's a bit of a seeded system with the top 8. Because up until the beginning of the group stage, I think I didn't really know or didn't really read into completely what it meant to be in the top 8. I just thought you're in the top 8, you're qualified. So where's the jeopardy in that? But what obviously the seeded system does is it puts you in a much more favourable position going forward in the knockout stages. That not only will you be at home for the second leg when the knockout phases commences, but also you'll be having a much more favourable tie, shall we say, potentially, in the opening stage of the knockouts, because you obviously top the group. So there is a bit of reward there for topping the group, and it's not like you win the opening 5 or 6 games, you're pretty much through, and then you use the last 3 games to heavily rotate your squad. Yes, Liverpool did so last night, but the only jeopardy would have been to finish second rather than first, and that would still have put Liverpool in a very decent spot going into the round of 16 stage. So there was jeopardy throughout. It meant that no game was ever like a dead rubber. It meant that no game was ever really a game that you couldn't take for granted, unless obviously you put yourself in a very good position, or you either put yourself in a horrible position, as the likes of, your Young Boys, your Slovan Bratislava, and your Salzburg, and so on and so forth did, by losing the vast majority or even all of their games in Slovan Bratislava and Young Boys' case. So, yeah, it was a very interesting way of going about it. Obviously, it was a very different format to what we're used to. It was going to be interesting to see how it all played out. Obviously, 36 teams, you're only playing 8 games in those 36 games. So there was going to be a lot of different factors that were going to kick off, stuff that was outside of their own team's control. You could only control what you did in the league phase. And the likes of Liverpool and Barcelona did that for the most part in the opening 7 games. Arsenal, of course, then finished 3rd. Inter finished 4th. They had a very solid campaign, barely conceded any goals. Actually, only conceded just the 1 goal in the league phase. So Inter's defensive record in this competition is pretty much immaculate. That's absolutely brilliant as far as what the Italian club are concerned. Atletico Madrid finished in 5th. Bayer Leverkusen under Xabi Alonso finished in 6th. Lille qualified automatically in 7th. And Aston Villa rounds off the top 8 in what has been a brilliant season for Unai Emery at Aston Villa. They qualified for the round of 16 stage in brilliant fashion. Certain teams, though, didn't quite make it into the automatic qualification stages. You've got your Atalanta, who is a strong team, in 9th. Dortmund finished 10th. Real Madrid finished in 11th. Now, of course, we know that they normally do turn up in the knockout stages. That's where they kind of wake up in this competition, and it kind of is football heritage in that kind of aspect. So that's going to be interesting to see how they do when they meet in the knockout stages to obviously qualify for the round of 16 stage. Bayern Munich under Vincent Kompany, Harry Kane obviously leading the line there. They finished in 12th. AC Milan in 13th. Again, another club rich in the history of this competition. PSV beat Liverpool in the final game, a heavily rotated Liverpool team. I can't stress that enough. In 14th. No, fair play to PSV, to be fair. PSG then in 15th. Benfica in 16th. Monaco 17th. Brest in 18th. The French debutants, of course, and the one that Mika Richards can't help but giggle at every time he hears the name of. Feyenoord in 19th. Juventus 20th. Celtic qualified for the knockout stages in 21st. Manchester City came from behind against Club Brugge to scrape through last night in 22nd. Sporting Lisbon just about made it as well in 23rd. And taking that last knockout spot is Club Brugge, of course, in what was an absolutely incredible league phase. Like I say, there was just no real game throughout the entire competition until you got to like the last game, where certain games didn't really mean as much and certain games were like there was very little jeopardy involved. That made it boring, which made it pointless. Now, I will say, last night was absolutely crazy in terms of all 18 games were played at the same time. I like it. I don't know if you can play it regularly. I don't know if, like, next season you can have Tuesday nights as Champions League nights where you have all 18 games, or at least you have, like, 9 games on at, like, 5:30 like they normally do, and 9 games on at 8 o'clock. I'm not sure if that can obviously be a regular occurrence going forward, but I've got to say I really did enjoy trying to keep up with the games last night. Everybody was putting on 18-fold accumulators. Everybody was going crazy with the betting and everything, and it made just for a very exciting and intriguing night, in my personal opinion. So I'm very much intrigued to know if they will continue that going forward. I highly doubt it. I do imagine it will continue to be stretched out between Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But I actually quite enjoyed it, and I think that if they actually did do that going forward, you could have Champions League nights on a Tuesday, you can have Europa League nights on a Wednesday, and Europa Conference League nights on a Thursday. So I'm very much intrigued to see if they will actually continue that going forward, because I was really enjoying trying to keep up to date with all the football last night. It was crazy, it was hectic, but at the same time, it's very interesting. Obviously, the league phase threw up a lot of different factors and scenarios in which could have actually played out in terms of obviously certain teams not having their own destiny in their own hands, certain teams having to rely on others, that kind of thing. It made for a much more interesting and exciting phase of the competition rather than the group stages, which, like I say, can often be decided within the opening 3, 4, 5 games, making the remaining ones seemingly pointless. You will get the odd group, I guess, which has a lot of jeopardy thrown into it, in which it may still be very open, even down to the final game of the group phase draw. But at the same time, I quite like this new league phase system, especially with the games that it threw up as well. There were some absolute banging games from time to time. I know that obviously my club of Liverpool had to face the current holders of the competition in Real Madrid. We had to face the German double champions in Bayer Leverkusen, of course. We had to face Champions League heritage and a club we have a lot of history with AC Milan on the opening day of our Champions League campaign as well. There were one or two other clubs in there as well. We had to face Girona for the first time in this competition as well. Pretty disappointed with Girona, actually, finishing 33rd, only one win out of their 8 games, so that was a little bit disappointing on their part, but it still threw up some very interesting games. And even when you look elsewhere, Arsenal took on Inter Milan. Arsenal also had a couple of also interesting games elsewhere. Manchester City, of course, took on the likes of like I said, Club Brugge last night. I think they took on PSG as well, of course, in that incredible 4-2 game there. It just threw up a lot of exciting and interesting games. Atalanta against Barcelona, of course, that was a very, very good game last night. There was just so many good games that this competition threw up, and you don't get that in great abundance of the Champions League, because the group phase is very quick, and of course, with the way that it separates the kind of elite teams to obviously like a tier list, it kind of waters it down a little bit. But obviously there's so much more going into the Champions League phase now. And of course there's so much more quality going into it. And there's so much more sort of teams just enjoying the moment. Like I say, debutants like French side Brest, for example, really did stun a few teams in this competition, and are rightfully so potentially going to be making it through to the proper knockout stages of this competition. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting knockout phases. Obviously 16 teams have to obviously make it to the round of 16 stage, which is another interesting format idea in this competition. Now it means they'll have to play an extra couple of games. It means they'll obviously have to play at a more intense level. So it's going to make it a very interesting viewing going forward as we enter the more familiar stage of knockout competition. But there are so many teams in there. There's so many different scenarios that could be thrown up. And of course, like I say, certain teams have... certain teams obviously have an idea of who they will be facing in the next round of the competition. So it's going to make for a very exciting viewing. But I, for one, really enjoyed the league phase. I thought there was a lot of jeopardy involved for certain teams, depending on how well, obviously, you handled your own games. I thought there was never really a dull fixture in the lot, other than maybe one or two towards the end. And I really, really did enjoy the overall the overall arching element of this league phase. I was a bit sceptical at first. I won't lie to you. I was a bit sceptical as to how this league phase draw would work. But I've got to say, I personally enjoyed it. I was excited by it. And the only thing that I will say to make it better going forward is probably to have more days like last night. More nights like last night where all the games are going off at the same time and you're trying to keep invested, you're trying to keep hold of it, and you've probably got 18, you probably found 18 screens from somewhere to have each and every single game on. It really did make for exciting viewing. So I, for one, really like the the league phase draw of the newly reformatted Champions League. But I want to know what you guys think. What did you make of it? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Did you maybe dislike it? Do you think that it could be further improved upon? Let me know what you guys thought about the Champions League group stages down below in the comment section. I'm sure it'll make for great and interesting reading down there. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Thank you all for your either continued or even brand new support to the channel. It's very much appreciated. You guys are absolutely awesome. If you are brand new, welcome along to the channel. And obviously, if you are also continuing your support, can't thank you enough for that as well. So thank you all for that. It very does mean a great deal to me. Will always be appreciated and never taken for granted. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in a video or live stream or whatever it may be. Premier League predictions video coming out later on today as well, so do keep your eyes peeled for that. Thanks everyone. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you all again very, very soon.